Hi, Ms. Vaughn. My name is Maitland, and I'll be talking about the research article project. And I'll give you the 10 articles that I have chosen and written about, and just the last names because some of their first names are really hard for me to pronounce and I don't really know how to say them. So the first one is Bookmaking, Creating Links Between Home and Early Childhood Programs by Boyce. Seeing Children Respond to Changes in the Environment by Curtis. In Minnesota, Teaching Starts Early with Special Focus on the Poor, and that's by French. The fourth one is Classroom Choreography by Firmenich, which is actually my favorite article. The fifth one is Interactive Writing, Developmentally Appropriate Practice in Blended Classes, and that's by Hall. The sixth one is Looking at the Whole Picture, a Wellness Curriculum for Young Children and Their Families, and that's by Johnson and Shilbani. The seventh one is Finding the Right Fit, and that's by Murphy. The eighth one is Environments That Speak to Children, and that's by Pratt. The ninth one is No Preschooler Left Behind, a Multicultural Education, and that's by Shippers. And then the last one is Venturing Out in the World with Children by Vicellaro. The first one the five that I'm going to actually be talking about specifically is Environments That Speak to Children, Finding the Right Fit, Looking at the Whole Picture, a Wellness Curriculum for Young Children and Their Families, and I'm going to be talking about Classroom Choreography and Seeing Children Respond to Changes in the Environment. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is Classroom Choreography, and this is actually my favorite one, and it was my favorite because I grew up doing dance and cheer, so I'm very motion activated and I can think that way. So this one was about incorporating movement into the early childhood classroom. So when you teach something, you have them move and do movement because they had studies done showing that this movement actually links to their brain, to their brain activities. The author suggests that movement is a tool to channel their behavior, so it gives them something to focus on rather than just goof around and everything. It not only does motion channel their behavior, but their fitness levels rise because of movement, obviously, instead of just sitting at a desk all day, and it helps them develop their problem-solving skills. Physical activity allows children the opportunity to learn how to follow directions, imitate behaviors, move in a variety of ways, know their body boundaries, balance, and develop gross motor skills, which, as preschoolers and children, it's very important to develop those skills at that age. Otherwise, it's harder and harder for them to do that. The author also went on to say that play, recess, and physical education enhance social skills, emotional intelligence, and conflict resolution ability. I think anything that has research to back it, that research that proves that, hey, this improves this kind of thing, we should give it a shot. Basically, the conclusion of all the research that was done and that was written about in the article says that the body is linked to the brain and that movement is linked to learning. So I know I think it was very insightful and educating for anybody going into the profession or actually in the profession of, early childhood. The second article that I will be talking about is Environments That Speak to Children, and through this class, the survey class, and through child development, we learned so much about the environment of the children and how environment plays such a vital role in their development and in their learning. The author promotes the idea that the environment should support and extend a child's learning experiences, which I totally agree with. I think that the environment tells children how to think and how to behave, and because of that, we need to focus on the environment and make sure it's an environment that is well suited to the children. And there's another article that I'll go into more detail about that. The article says, and I'm reading directly from the article, so this is Pratt's words, that the key elements to developing a positive classroom environment are three key elements: the physical, the interactional, and the temporal. The physical is how it's designed and the ongoing management of it. The interactional is the social interactions between their peers and between the environment. And the temporal, which is just like their routines and schedules, their daily activities. The 5 defining characteristics of a classroom, which we should kind of be like our rubric when we're making our classroom or setting it up, is a physical location, so where actually like centers are. Visual boundaries, indicating where something begins and ends, so same thing with the centers. Each center is defined, rather than for example, one of my observations that I actually did, the classroom, they were doing center time for kindergarten, and there was a rug, and one of the centers was at the front of the rug, and the other center was at the back of the rug, and I mean, it just wasn't really a well-defined area. They all kind of blend together at that point. The article anyway continues to go on talking about color, shape, texture, and forms, and how those should all be thought about, and those should be carefully planned and organized when doing your room, to make sure that it is pleasing and provoking an emotional response from the children, and obviously making it a positive one. The third article that I'll be talking about is Seeing Children Respond in the Environment by Curtis Lee. And it goes along the same lines as the one before. And for me, the environment for children, I feel, is it should be so important, and we should take it so carefully, because a lot of these children, their homes might not be a positive, stimulating environment. So when they come to school, it's the only time that they have this opportunity. And I liked Curtis's article because it was different than the one before, because Curtis's was about, he actually did experiments with it. He set up different environments, and he would set up one, and he would see how the children behaved in it, and he would take note and saw how the boys were rough and they were rambunctious, and then he would change the environment, doing what he knew to change to make it the way he wanted it to, with textures and colors and defined areas, and saw that the boys were still, rough and tumble play, but they were more adapt to following directions and listening, and they were more calm throughout for the majority of the day. He removed the clutter, which is a big issue, and in a lot of the classrooms that I've been observing in, that's been a big thing, is just clutter. There's just clutter everywhere. And I don't know, Curtis has had a different take on it, and I liked his take because he focused more on the boys rather than he did the girls. Curtis says, "We have the impact of the new space and materials on the children's learning in many different ways," which I just really liked his research, and I liked how he put it into practical use for us. The fourth article that I'm going to talk about is Curriculum for Young Children and Their Families, and that is by, oh my goodness, I just lost it. Oh, Johnson. I'm sorry, it's by Johnson. And anyways, looking at the whole picture as a wellness is talking about the many interwoven factors of a child's education. Personal, family, social, cultural, and economical are the 5 that they discuss in there, and they go into detail with each one. They talk about how the personal affects the child, which, we can easily see the personal and how that personal affects, and we can see how your family life affects it, and the social and their social class, and but sometimes it's hard to see the economic and the cultural, I think, and they just really do. The authors do a great job pointing that out and putting it into perspective for us. They also really talk about the obesity of the children and the epidemic that we're really seeing today, and how those 5 factors, the personal, family, cultural, how those 5 factors affect the obesity rate. it says that there's a substantial attention and resources have been directed toward preventing children to become overweight and obese. They do research and they collect a lot of data from other research that have been done. And all in all, at the very end, it says, based on their findings, the authors presented suggested strategies and resources to increase the effectiveness of classroom practices in promoting the wellness for them. And they did. They gave us lots of great suggestions, you know, the classroom choreography and movement and snack times and information that you talk about. And, you know, even just down to the little things when you're talking about, you know, 3 plus 2. And rather than saying 3 pieces of candy plus 2, you know, you're talking about apples or oranges. And that's all goes back to their mentally to where it will, subconsciously, it will affect them. And the final article that I will talk about today, for this video anyways, is Finding the Right Fit by Murphy. It discusses the belief toward a commitment to offering differentiated instruction to meet students' varied learning needs. In every single classroom, in every single grade, you're going to have more than one type of child in your class. And you as a professional should, you know, I as a professional, my goal should be to reach every single child where they are, meet them at their needs, and to find their needs. Because if you don't know where they're different, then how can you help them? And so Murphy really dives into that thought of figuring out what the children need and figuring out how they need it and how you can help them. And you might have to, you know, teach this one way, but teach it 5 different ways for a child to learn it. Individualized instruction provides inclusive experiences for children with and without disabilities. That's a big thing too, because a lot of time we think, well, it's just those with disabilities, learning disabilities that we need to really individualize on. But however, Murphy and I agree, it should be more of an overall task for us. Murphy then goes in and he goes even further to say those students with ADHD, it's becoming such a huge problem and such a huge concern that we really need to be focusing on it. He says that our task as educators is to ensure that children's unique ways of learning, and demonstrating their knowledge are respected, valued, and reflected in our teaching. And I thought that was just so fantastic, because there's not a truer statement than that. Those children need to be respected, valued, and that needs to be shown in our teaching methods. I could go on and talk about some of these other articles because they really were they all were really good. I really enjoyed them. I always enjoy this project. You know, it's my second time doing it, and each time I have I've gained knowledge from it. So anyways, those are my 5 articles, and thank you for watching, and have a good day.